Through hard investigation and research, I've finally come to a conclusion. For years, I've been asking myself why everyone is so miserable all the time. Is it because of the government, taxes, or just the British in general? No, I believe there to be a far greater threat than even humanity poses. Take a look at this picture. Wait, this is my ultrasound. This picture may not look like anything more than an unassuming goose, but what truly hides behind this depiction is the matter of true evil. Geese are the villains of birds. They're boastful creatures that take what they want and ruin other people's days for no reason that isn't attached to their own demented pleasure. And they've proven to be an unstoppable force within recent years. I mean, just checking out the numbers. Apparently there's a lot of them. They don't respect borders, they don't abide by personal space, and I can't even get one of them to understand English. That might sound strange, but I want them to know I'm threatening them with nuclear warheads. So during these trying times of all-out war, I'm gonna play a simulation game so I can understand why these geese are so cruel. And maybe at the end of it all, I'll finally get my wallet back. Somehow that goose knew the launch codes were in there. Untitled Goose Game. This game got its start out as a joke amongst employees. Can't imagine why. Basically, one of the employees got a stock photo of a goose for no reason at all and sent it through the company's internal communications. Everyone liked it so much that they thought it would make a great game. This game won awards. People were instantly excited for this game because it sounds like a concept that was stupid enough to work perfectly in execution. I mean, how could this not work? There hasn't been a Goose game that hasn't. Duck Duck Goose still holds up. This game caught the attention of many, and it isn't hard to see why. Lots of indie games come up with the stupidest concepts, yet they end up being really appealing because of how they make it work. Untitled Goose Game wouldn't work if you were one of the people trying not to get swindled, but because you are the goose causing everyone's misery for no particular reason, it's just funny. And the goose itself is the stupidest thing imaginable, yet it has so much detail put into it, it really feels like I'm controlling a goose. And that's why I turned myself in. The goose moves in a way that's a bit wonky and doesn't have the most fluid movements, but it works perfectly in that way. There are some games where I don't want precise movement, which is exactly why I save Wario World for my off days. Even though it would be really helpful if I could make sharp turns around corners while scurrying away from an angry shopkeeper, I feel like that would take away from some of the fun of it. I want to get caught in a corner from time to time. Not only is it silly and dumb because it's a goose, but it's something you'll have to grow to work around as the game progresses and you'll have to make some quick escapes. Other movements include lowering your head to pick up items off of the ground, which is extremely useful, and you can spread your wings to show off for no reason, which is also extremely useful. Most of the things you do in this game wouldn't work if your movement wasn't as stupid as it was. Did I forget to mention the honk button? I sometimes went out of my way to make the people's lives miserable even if it wasn't necessary for the progression of the game, because the movement of the goose was so silly that it made the simple act of stealing a guy's newspaper one of the most enthralling video game experiences out there. And I find the art style to be simply brilliant. It's rather simplistic, but it makes everything pop. The goose looks out of place as this clean white bird rummaging around the garbage. It's not like anyone gave me the stink eye. And the people display the perfect amount of emotion despite the lack of facial features. Because of how expressive the characters are in this simplistic manner, it makes the game absolutely hilarious when you can imagine the horror on this child's face when you corner him into a phone booth. Most of the time, I don't even need to imagine. Dang it. The only character with full facial features is the goose, which I find to be symbolic of how the goose thinks he's the only thing that matters. Who cares what happens when I take this man's newspaper? Who cares what happens when I make this man fall on his bum? Who cares what happens when I commit a robbery? Oh yeah. Although I don't usually comment on the music of a game, this game is absolutely elevated by its music in a way that enhances both its comedic and relaxing undertones. The soundtrack isn't long and it's only really backed by one instrument, but when I think about pianos, I don't think of a grand concert with people cheering at a man on stage pouring his heart and soul into the keys. I think of a goose briskly running away from a lady with a broom. The piano practically becomes a character as it follows you throughout the course of the game, matching all of your actions with its own melody. Have I played games with far better soundtracks? Dear God, yes. But this game integrates the music into your actions so well that it makes the game feel like one big comedy skit that you get to act out. Whenever I play this game, I can imagine a guy with a grand piano sitting right next to me making fun of my every movement as I waddle past some random old man. It simply feels that genuine. Now this game is a mix between a puzzle game and a stealth game. Sometimes it's just one of them, but other times it can be both. The goal of the game is to complete the checklist you're given as it asks you to commit hate crimes on the local townsfolk. But I shouldn't be saying stuff like that, I just got out on parole. Many of the items on the list have complicated methods to their completion. That's where the puzzle aspect of the game comes into play. While I can make these people miserable in my own special way, in order to drive them to their lowest points, we need to figure out how to accomplish most of the tasks that are listed. Not all of them are cut and dry. There's a method to the madness. Sometimes you have to be smart about things, wait for the perfect time, and and blam, petty misdemeanor. I quite like how solving the puzzles meshes with how you're sneaking around and trying to steal things without anybody noticing. It works very well and can make for a fun time as you scurry under a table and everyone acts bamboozled as to where the goose went. To be fair, they don't have eyes. But the 2-player mode in this game is unreal. There's absolutely nothing like tag teaming as one person distracts and the other one steals. Sure, it makes everything a lot easier in the game, but it also requires a lot of coordination between you and the other person. To be the most effective team possible, working together to get a single task accomplished feels great to pull off. I almost wish the game had even more versatile options for multiplayer, because I love playing this game with other people. It makes everything more ironic, because chances are that both people would be mocking the farmer day in and day out. Or maybe I'm just cruel. But this is without a doubt one of the best 2-player experiences out there. I just wish the opportunity to play it arose more often than once every 2 millennium. And I'll still be counting down the days. But this game's largest flaw is its length. This game is short, and even shorter if you know what you're doing. Before you know it, you'll be in the last area of the game, putting your goosing skills to the test. Yes, the game is smartly paced, increasing in scope and complexity as you go along, but it doesn't take that much time to get the credits rolling. I loved the time that I spent with it, but the game is more fun when you don't know what the solution is to every puzzle. There is a bit of post-game content that merges together items and people from locations all across the game, so the option is there for the extension of playtime. But I can't help but feel like the game should be just a bit longer initially. I'm not the kind of guy that goes, only 10 hours? How pathetic. But because this game was so good, I feel like there were plenty more ideas that they could have kept squeezing out if they tried. Maybe even some inexpensive DLC would have done the trick, as the game did fairly well. But alas, no such thing has come to light. But as a whole, this is an incredible game. You can really feel the passion that was put into this game. From all of the silly patterns that the NPCs follow to the goose being so expressive. This game is a one-of-a-kind experience that I'm glad to have sat through. The concept is appealing, the art and music are intriguing, and the 2-player content is oh so fun. It might be on the short side, but that means it doesn't drag on for longer than it needs to. Have you ever read Moby Dick? Here's a similar question. Are you still alive? But now that I've gathered all the intelligence and how the geese operate, I'm gonna go get my wallet back. Apparently I shouldn't have sent the goose a written ultimatum. It took that as a threat and called the cops on me. At the very least I managed to get my wallet back, launch codes and all. The bad news is I didn't get off on parole.